You're listening to the Mind Your Own Business podcast, aimed at helping photographers learn how to make the leap from amateur to pro. Hello and welcome to the Mind Your Own Business podcast, a joint effort brought to you by PhotoFocus and Skip Cohen University. This is Shamira Young, and I'm joined by the creative mad scientist himself, Skip Cohen.
Oh, and I am in a creative mad scientist kind of mood today.
Perfect.
This is great.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, you too. And this is our second annual traditional Mind Your Own Business episode where it's just you and me riffing on what's out there for the year ahead. So I am really, I'm excited. We've got a new year, we've got a clean slate, and there's so much potential in 2021 and leading up to 2022.
Absolutely. And as photographers, we really need to stay focused on what we can do to grow our businesses. We've all gotten through 2020, and now is the time to start plotting, to continue plotting, to see how we can grow our businesses in 2021. And there's so many different things we can do, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
And I'm kind of hoping that this becomes a pivot less, plan more kind of year, where you don't have to be as reactionary, especially now. I mean, this is the slow season. It would be the slow season with or without a pandemic.
Right.
And it's an opportunity, I think, for everybody out there to really start to put some building blocks into the foundation of your business to rebuild and jumpstart what disappeared or has been just dormant because of the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So,
did you want to kick us off? Yeah.
Let's
do it.
Well, I want to start with a quote from Sherry Hagerman, who's the founder of ClickCon, because she wrote recently, "The new year will be a recovery year for most photographers and videographers and a time to catch up on accumulated debt from the 2020 losses." So if we stop looking in our rearview mirror, I mean, we all know the pain of 2020, and start looking forward. I mean, there's no question that the vaccine is out there and things will slowly get better, providing the politicians don't screw it up. Sorry, got negative there for a minute.
Come on,
but
Skip.
There's an opportunity here, and I think it starts with everybody thinking about diversity in your specialty. Is there a theme for 2021? For example, there's a great line that I've used a lot: growth only happens outside your comfort zone. That means that as everybody starts to, and everybody is in a rebuilding mode. I don't care how good your November, December might have been. And there are a lot of photographers that had some great success towards the end of the year. It doesn't change the fact that the bulk of 2020 hurt your business. So it's time to rebuild. So as you start to rebuild and look for ways to make yourself stand out, I think there's some really unique ways that we're going to talk about now. Of things you can be doing to really make yourself stand out. And it all starts with that line about take those risks and step outside your comfort zone.
Yes. I love it. And I mean, when you think about it, 2020, we were all put outside of our comfort zone already, whether we liked it or not, just with everything going on with our businesses and the country. And I mean, we were all uncomfortable. And so if you think about it, for 2021, let's continue to grow outside of our comfort zone because we've already been outside of it anyway. And, just to throw this in there, now is the perfect time to focus on the diversity and all of our skill sets in post-production. And, it's one of the good things about this being the slow season right now is that we can focus on growing our skills in some areas where maybe we're not so comfortable. Such as lighting, for example, or pushing the envelope in styling your photos in post-production, in Luminar, for example. So one of the things that I love doing, and I've seen other photographers do, just for example, is digging into your archives and going back and restyling those and really sharpening your post-production skills as far as developing your own personal style. And many of us, most of us, don't have a ton of photo shoots scheduled right now, and so it's just a great time to sharpen your skills. Can you think of anything, Skip, that you've seen?
Well, I laugh about it because I refer to Luminar as making a lot of my images look better than I deserve.
Luminar's awesome.
Because it is minimal. I can hit one button and take one of their presets, and it just like the clarity button. It might sharpen, it might change the contrast slightly, not to the point where everybody says, "Oh my God, he's become a filter junkie," but just to clean up some of my images and make them better. And then there's also the ability right now. Macro and close-up have never been more popular.
Yes.
And you and I do a lot of work with Platypod. That's kind of fun. And I mean, there's a max macro set, things like that. And we're not going to turn this into an infomercial. But the fact that this is an opportunity, especially for wedding photographers, to hone in on their skills and really create better ring shots, detail shots. And that leads right into the one that I want to hit next, which is start getting to know video.
Yes.
And also storytelling. I mean, storytelling is different when you're shooting still images and putting together the story of an album. And a wedding album is not a book of photographs. It's the first family heirloom of a brand new family. And even in the pandemic, there's an opportunity for you to start to build some of those images, starting at the engagement shoot, of things that help tell the client's story. And at the same time, you need to start to get to know video a little bit better. All of us now have cameras where with the click of one button, you can go from still images to video. So this is the time to start to hone in on those skills so that you can put together stories that include not just still images, but video, and as Suzette Allen used to talk about, as the queen of hybrid, putting together still images, video, and music to create a really nice piece for your clients.
Absolutely.
Including your own marketing piece, by the way.
For sure. Yep, that's where I was going with next. And that kind of takes us into the next point about cleaning up your website. When you have a video piece as a marketing piece on your website, that is super powerful. A handful of years ago, I put together just a quick, I think it was a minute, 2 seconds. I'd have to go back and check, but it was a very short marketing video piece just showing me interacting with clients at a portrait party. And it was all kind of B-roll, fun footage, some music was put to it, and we put it on the website and social media, and I could not believe the response that got from people who knew me, from people who didn't know me. They felt like they knew me just seeing me work with other clients and the work that I booked from that. If you put together a marketing video piece and then put it on your website, that is so very powerful. Consider putting it on your About page, for example. And while we're talking about your website, I'm very guilty of this, of needing to clean up my website, certain galleries, spiff up my bio. This is the perfect time right now for all of us as photographers to not only clean up our websites, but bring it up to the next level. What do you think, Skip?
I couldn't agree more. In fact, years ago, I was doing website reviews, and I did a review of one photographer's website, and she had over 4,000 images in her galleries.
Oh.
She essentially had saved and shown every single thing, every time she had ever hit the shutter button over the last few years. You really don't need very much to tell your story. Every image you share in your gallery needs to be what I call a wow print, meaning it's so good that it's the only image you'd have to show to get hired. So when you start putting your galleries together, think of, I'll bump it up a little bit. I used to say 6 to 8 images. I'd go 8 to 12 today to show the story in any particular category. Now, that doesn't mean in a wedding you've got to break up a wedding into every single component, from getting ready, the details, the ceremony, the reception. Everybody knows how a wedding flows, and these days it's a little bit different because we're still in physical distancing and maintaining health issues. But you don't have to put hundreds of images up there, but clean up your galleries and get rid of the stuff that you don't need an expert to look at your galleries. Everybody out there knows what images are on their website that really aren't their best work. So this is going to be the year to really show quality. And that leads into another one that I want to go to next. let's talk about direct mail for a second. Now is the perfect time to do a personal letter to your target audience. Take all of your past clients. I mean, I love it when photographers tell me that they're desperate to find new clients, but they forget about the gold mine they're sitting on, which is in their archives of past clients. Unless you were a real doofus, odds are your past clients like you. So now would be the time to do a personal letter that says, hey, as the light in the end of the tunnel shines a little bit more with the vaccine and things getting better in the economy, memories haven't changed and the importance of them. And, let's talk about doing an updated family portrait, or maybe there's something you've added to your business. Maybe in that first section we talked about a minute ago about diversity, maybe you want to tell your clients that while, weddings are your normal strong suit, that you're now doing some specials on children and family portraits. Or maybe you've called your lab to find out, what's new, and you've got some products in there that you want to be able to offer. So this is the time to do a personal letter and sign it. And it's perfect to send out to your target audience to remind them that, hey, it's a new year and we're excited, and here are things that we're offering to our clients.
For sure. And just to add to that, an email newsletter is wonderful as well for keeping in touch with your clients. Right. It's fun. And for a photographer who hasn't taken on an email newsletter yet, it can be kind of scary, kind of a new way of putting yourself out there. But I remember the first one that I did, it was a newsletter just highlighting fun stuff the business was doing. I actually didn't have the guts to try to sell anything in my first newsletter years ago, and I got a good handful of requests back for portraits, for business portraits and family portraits, just because they liked the newsletter and things looked fun. Now is the perfect time to keep in touch with your clients, especially your past clients that you've worked with. They already know you. Hopefully they like you. Hopefully they trust you. Hopefully they love your work. If they pay for it, they should. Keep them updated on things you're planning for the year. Highlight past case studies as well. It's always fun to show off what you've done in the past, and it's just an easy, fun way to be in front of your client's face without physically being there, especially with social distancing these days.
Boy, you just hit on a topic I'm adding to our list. The idea of share some past case studies. Now, for those of you that are sitting there going, what are they talking about? Think about some of the things that you've had to photograph. Families in difficult times. Let's talk about the weather. Don't be afraid to go outside. It's wintertime for most of the country now. Well, it's wintertime for everybody. But bad weather can make some of the greatest photographs. There's an image that became almost iconic of Clay Blackmore's with the bride and her bridesmaids out in the snow, and he's got the snow coming down. Don't be afraid to step outside, but being able to share that in your blog as a case study, or in your newsletter, as you were referring to it, as, here's what the challenge was and here's how we handled it. That's another way of you being able to be a storyteller, not so much telling the story of a client, but telling your story about your skill set. Yes,
for sure. For sure. And that kind of leads us into our next point about staying involved in your community. Community involvement. Now, with your newsletter, that is a way of staying involved in your local community when you think about it, because you are keeping in touch with people. But there are other ways as well to stay involved in your community, even with the current pandemic situation that we have. And just a quick example for me, with my local community foundation, I'm part of the arts committee. And sure, we don't have meetings face-to-face, but we do have meetings via Zoom. And I have found that is a great way to plug into the community, to stay on top of what's going on, and to kind of contribute and give back via Zoom, even with the pandemic. Does anything come to mind for you, Skip?
Well, yeah, one of the things to add is a calendar of events.
Ooh.
Even though a lot of events have been canceled in communities, a lot of them have also gone to online. I'm active in the Senior Friendship Center and on their board here in Sarasota. It's a $16 million nonprofit that does Meals on Wheels, healthcare. There are all kinds of different programs. and we want to keep the funding going. Well, they recently did an evening that was meant to resemble a cocktail reception. The only thing was that it was on Zoom, and we were all bringing, it was definitely BYOB, but it raised a substantial amount of money. So all of those events that are taking part in your community that have now moved to other venues, and some of them are still taking place and respecting physical distancing and health issues, but you've got an opportunity to maintain the calendar of events and let people know what's going on. And things like, it could be United Way, it could be a walkathon that people are doing that, again, maintaining safety and physical distancing. But you've got the ability to become the town crier on things that are going on in your community. And there's a great line that I've used for years from J. Conrad Levinson, who's the one that coined the words guerrilla marketing. And that's that people like buying products from companies they perceive as giving back to the community. Mm-hmm. So, as I've said 100 times before, you're looking for the community to be good to you. You better make sure that you're being good to your community.
That's right.
Yeah, good one. Let's talk about, I mentioned website before, and this is kind of a little bit redundant, and because Shamir and I are working, we're kind of riffing back and forth of our own favorites here. Keep your images on your website fresh. I mentioned before, you know which images aren't good, but let's not just talk about good images. Let's talk about the fact that you want to keep sharing new content. So in your website, in your blog, it's an opportunity to be able to share fresh images and things that you're doing right now. And you can sit there all day long and say, yeah, well, I'm a wedding photographer and I'm not shooting any weddings. How do I show something fresh? Well, here's the perfect time to be able to show some macro things you've been doing so that the first wedding out of the blocks that you do in 2021 is going to get the very best coverage. So you can still show your skill set with images that you've been doing on the side during downtime.
For sure. And just to add a little bit in there, sometimes, I don't know about you, Skip, but sometimes I actually have trouble figuring out what's a good image for me because I'm so emotionally tied to the images that I take, and I know the backstory behind it. Sometimes I need a second or third pair of eyes to look at the images and tell me if it's actually a striking image and if I should have it on my website. All that to say, don't be afraid to ask a friend or a family member, or if you have a photo mentor, send them a link to your website and kind of ask them, hey, what do you think of these images? Are there certain ones that really stand out to you, or are there ones that you shouldn't have on your website because they make no sense in being there? So don't be afraid to ask for feedback. And to take us to our next point, it is the perfect time right now to focus on your education, your online education as far as photography goes. And we have extra time on our hands, and there are so many great resources out there that can teach you retouching, lighting, even shooting with a client. I mean, there are great classes, online classes out there to help you brush up on your skills. I mean, Creative Live, for example, has a ton of great courses. There are photography conferences that are normally in person that have been canceled, for example, such as ClickCon, where they offer, I think it's every month now, right? With ClickCon?
It's once a month. ClickCon Nation takes place.
ClickCon Nation, yes.
And here's some more just to add to the list. I mean, Imaging USA is going to be a virtual event online this year. That takes place later on in January. Kelby Media's travel workshop is coming up. I think it's January 17th. Tamron just announced they're launching a program. It starts January 7th, and every Thursday night, I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, they're covering a different specialty in a webinar. And then we always forget about some of the business and marketing things. Nobody does it better than Sarah Petty's Joy of Marketing.
That's right.
Blog with video. She's doing a lot of things in video. There are so many exciting things that are going on right now. You've got the Waldens and Walden Mentoring out of Kentucky. There's just a ton of stuff that is available online, and this is where everybody's got to take that opportunity to hone in on your weaknesses and step outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely. All about stepping outside of our comfort zone.
And I guess, am I going next?
I was going to jump in, but I realized I just took the last one. I was like, I don't want to be a hog here. Go ahead.
All right. So this is a real short one. Think about how you're going to make yourself different from your competitors. My buddy Terry Clark over near Pittsburgh said once, find out what everybody else is doing and then do something different. Here's an opportunity, and the pandemic has created a real interesting opportunity for everybody to show some leadership in how they run their business, how they market themselves, and what products you offer. So take a look at what everybody else is doing. And then, again, it might mean you got to step outside your comfort zone, but if you've worked on your skill set, then what was outside your comfort zone yesterday is back in it today.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. Yep. And for the next one, now is the perfect time to work on your online presence as far as using Zoom, FaceTime, Skype. We all have to look good on camera. And to be honest, this is something that I'm working on. Something that's been insanely helpful for me as I slowly work on upping my game with having awesome lighting when I'm on a Zoom meeting for the Community Foundation Board, for example, or Arts Committee Board, is Platypod, actually. We've mentioned Platypod on this show a number of times, even a few minutes ago. And Platypod combined with their Lytra torches is such a simple and easy way to have decent lighting so that you don't look like, I don't know, something from like you just rose from the dead. You don't want to look like you have horrible lighting bags under your eyes. You want to look professional, because even though you are online and not in person, you still want to have a professional persona where people take you seriously. And with all of us using some sort of online meeting, doing online meetings, I should say, we're doing it more than ever. Now is the perfect time to learn how to look good on camera, because even when this pandemic is over, so to speak, or we go back to some semblance of a new normal, I think that online meetings are going to be more popular than ever still.
Yep.
So
plus meeting with clients one-on-one.
Yep.
There are two interesting resources here to share with everybody. There's a great book out called Great on Camera that Larry Becker wrote. Actually, he worked on that one. That was before the pandemic was even an issue for all of us. And then the other one is J.P. Morgan. If you go to the Slanted Lens on his YouTube channel, look for a video. I believe it's called Your Lighting Sucks. And it's got a green and red, a green check mark and a red X. And JP takes you through his setup for doing video podcasts, which, again, it ties in Platypod, it ties in Lytra, but whatever lighting you're using, make it a point to. So I'm so tired of doing meetings where people at the very bottom of the screen, because they don't pay attention to how they've set up their computer and where they're sitting. And sometimes lighting, you can make your lighting better just by moving in a couple of table lamps. Mm-hmm. You don't need to get crazy here. Just look professional. That goes right into being professional. Remember that your website is about what you sell. Your blog is about what's in your heart. And what's happening right now, there are more people online than at any time in history. And if somebody wants to challenge me on that, feel free. But because of the pandemic, for most of us, we've only got two ways to keep in touch. One is the telephone, and you can only be on the phone so much during the day. And the other is online, which we're all online. I mean, in fact, I hate so many different things that Facebook does, but Facebook has given me the ability to keep in touch with so many good friends and so many photographers, and also keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. So if people are online more than ever before, then you've got an opportunity to make your blog absolutely scream so that people can take a look and see what you're doing and things that you're doing and suggesting. In fact, I'm going to jump to another one that we had next, which was just the idea of being helpful in your blog. Mm-hmm. People will say, I don't have anything to write about. Yes, you do. Just be helpful. Share some of the challenges you have. You've got parents that have been stuck at home with small children, for example, for 9 months now, and the kids aren't necessarily in school yet. In fact, in most cases, they're not. So you've got homeschooling. Be helpful. Share some of the things that you're doing with your own family. I know a lot of families now are doing game night, for example. Matt Sutherland posted a picture early on in the Facebook. He's one of the Lumix ambassadors, and it was his family all around a game board. So take advantage of your blog to share with your audience things that you're doing that are relevant to things that they're doing and feeling.
Skip, you must have been reading my mind, because I was definitely going to highlight the fact that we can be helpful to our clients, to our local community. You want to be the online expert in your community. And like you said, so many people are stuck at home right now. Stuck at home kind of sounds harsh, but stuck at home with their families. That's the way it is. And if you can give them portrait tips on how to document this time, they will appreciate it. And you better believe that when the economy opens back up all the way and we're doing photo shoots again, that they will want to book you, the online photo expert, to show up and take portraits of their family. I mean, there's so many ways, opportunities to be helpful. And this kind of relates to our next point about forming alliances and partnerships with other artists. When I saw this note, I took it in a local manner, or I thought about it in a local way where you can be helpful to the businesses in your community. So not just the other photographers, but the other businesses that complement your business. For example, if you're a wedding photographer, you have the flower shops, you have the bridal stores, you have the caterers. Keep in touch with them online, reach out, see how you can be helpful. Keep the lines of communication open, because we are all in this together, and it's no secret that all businesses, or at least most businesses, are struggling right now, and we need to be there for each other in order to help each other stay open, frankly.
Well, that's perfect to go into. I mean, we think of seasonality as being over now, but if you think about what the pandemic has done and the number of people that are at home, and I hate using the words hunkered down. I've used it more in the last 9 months than my whole life, but we're all hunkered down. Well, Valentine's Day is coming up in February.
Oh, yeah.
Now would be the time to develop a relationship, talk to your local florist, and come up with something cool to do for Valentine's Day. This is actually a time when, if you're a boudoir shooter, boudoir photography, it's not my personal taste, but that's just because I'm an I'm an old fart at this point. But there's some stunning, beautiful boudoir work being done, especially in I love the stuff that's in black and white, and it becomes almost a figure study as opposed to honey, I love you and here's a sexy shot. And there's so much beautiful stuff out there. So working together with a florist now, working together for a family portrait Valentine's Day, while it's typically between couples, this is the perfect time for grandma to get a Valentine from her kids that is a new portrait of the kids. So there's an opportunity for you to develop seasonality, even though it's not that big a deal of a holiday, or it hasn't been in the past. Valentine's Day is the next big one coming up in February, and it's an opportunity for you to develop an alliance logically with a florist. So those partnerships make such a difference.
Love it. Love it. And our next one, don't be afraid to use your phone. Talk to people. Now, full honesty, this is something that I am working on as we speak, but with so much of our focus being online, I think it's easy for many of us to forget that our phones, despite the 1,000,001 things that they do, they were invented to have conversations with people, to hear another person's voice. And now is the perfect time. I mean, for example, call up your past clients, reach out, see how they're doing. Don't try to sell anything if you don't want to. Or if the conversation happens to go in that way, feel free to brainstorm future fun ideas, like portrait ideas. Give them tips of portrait ideas that they can take with their family, or when the economy opens up, start brainstorming and getting them excited for future photo session ideas. But the main point is really not to be too hard selly. Is selly a word? To try
selly it is now.
It is now. It is officially now. Try not to be too hard selly, but show that you care. That's the main thing. People want to know that you care. And just the fact that you're checking up on them will go a long way, and they will remember that in the future. Skip, is
Well,
anything coming to mind for you?
yeah, it's really easy. Pick up the phone and just say, hey, all I want to do is wish you a Happy New Year and see how you guys are doing. That's all it is. And even if you just took 3 or 4 clients a day and did that and said, okay, I'm going to set aside an hour, 2 hours each day, maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
That's still your number one strongest marketing tool is building relationships. So, and when you think about the relationships, even with the vaccine right now, it's still going to be months before there's any level of normalcy. I know for us, I don't know when I'm going to feel comfortable with Sheila and I getting on a plane and flying in a petri dish to the West Coast or wherever we want to go. So travel is going to be different. Everything is going to be different for a while. I don't know if we're ever going to get back to what we thought of as normal at the beginning of 2020. So take the time now just to recognize that this is going to be baby steps. So we're talking about things you can be doing to rebuild your business, and take the time to look at what things do you need to stand out. What's going to make you stand out in your community? What's going to make you stand out from your competitors? So that as we get more and more normal, and they are saying, who knows whether or not they're right, but they are saying that probably by April, early summer, we should be able to gather again and do a whole lot of things together like we used to, but be prepared for it to be slower than everybody would like it to be. But hopefully, there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel.
For sure. And, it's also the perfect time to be thinking about our special offers and promotions as we prepare for things to go back to some level of normalcy. You mentioned Valentine's Day, which things won't be normal by then, but there's still, like you mentioned, special offers that you can do for Valentine's Day. But there's also July 4th, or I've seen some people make up their own holidays just to have a reason to offer a special offer to their clients or to get in new clients. And now is a wonderful time. We all have extra time on our hands to kind of make a list and see what direction you want to steer your business in this year. What do you think, Skip?
Well, I couldn't agree more. But also, you jump to the 4th of July. You've got Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduations
Forgot about
that are going
those.
to come up in the spring.
Love it.
They're all there. And now's the time. If you think about it, if you build a relationship with your local florist for Valentine's Day, then it's perfect to come back to that same florist when Mother's Day rolls around. Also, just because we've all been hunkered down doesn't mean that there aren't memories that need to be captured. I bought a holiday ornament for the tree that was actually a Publix supermarket because it had a big P on it, and we laughed because that's our pandemic ornament. The P standing for Publix, but for us it's a memory that through the pandemic, the people that we were most active with were all those clerks and people at the market that stayed open, so that we had food in all of our refrigerators and pantries, and it wasn't easy. So look for those memories that are still out there and need to be captured. And then you go into the importance of just picking up the phone and calling your lab. You want to put together a special offer or promotion on a new product, pick up the phone, call your lab, and all you have to do is say what's new. And then just shut up and listen. I happen to love Performance EXT Metal, which is a Bay Photo product, but we've got prints now. Again, I live in Florida, so having prints on the outside of my house around the pool, again, because we live in Florida, is not it's not a serious what do you want to call it? It's not a serious risk. Their EXT Metal is designed to be out in cold weather, in warm weather, in hot weather, in the rain, in the sun. I've got prints that are on the wall of the back of the house that have been out there for over 2 years.
Wow.
And they don't show one sign of breaking down and fading. Well, you've got all these restaurants out there that's serving outside. They've got nothing out there. There's a whole new client base out there, and it starts with a call to your lab to say, okay, what are some of the new products I ought to offer my client?
Absolutely. And here's one that I really love. Now is the perfect time to think about new gear that you need to grow as a photographer. There are a bunch of specials going on right now with camera equipment companies. One thing that I love, though, is the whole concept of trying before you buy. I have rented from a number of companies such as Lens Rentals or Lens Pro to Go, where if you're curious about a certain piece of equipment, a camera body or a lens, you can try it out. You can rent it. Now, renting becomes expensive if you're doing that every week. I'm not saying you should rent all the time. But if you're curious about something, try renting it once or twice, get to know it, see if you like it, and then purchase it. And that gives you a great feel for the equipment. I've done that with my favorite lens, for example. Actually, my current camera body as well, where it gets you outside of your comfort zone, outside of what you're used to using. And sometimes you don't know if you like a new piece of gear unless you try it. So don't be afraid to rent some stuff and try it.
Well, here's the fun thing about renting and leasing. It allows you to use their assets without depleting yours.
Yeah.
And there's a great story about Joe Busink, who bought a tilt shift lens early on in his wedding work because he wanted his work to look different. And he tied up cash. It hurt his cash flow. And he wound up selling it off at a loss because he barely used it. Mm-hmm. And Joe's very open about telling that story because we all get into this situation where we think we've got to have something. We've got to have new gear. And we forget that, well, you know what? If you rent it or lease it first, you can try it out for the weekend. Yep. And then if you like it, and then if it makes sense, and if it's got a place in your business that's logical to make money, then you're going to go ahead and you can either lease it or buy it, but have it, as part of your permanent gear. Absolutely. And that kind of wraps us up with one last one that everybody needs to remember. Get outside, everybody.
Yes.
Even in the wintertime. Take your camera with you. Get out of the house. It doesn't mean that you have to violate any of the rules that we've gotten used to in terms of physical distancing and maintaining our own protection, safety, and health. But there's a whole world out there, and it's there for macro and for close-up and for memory making, and even going ahead and doing a socially distant family portrait. I know in the very beginning of this, people were talking about front porch portraits. Mm-hmm. Well, that's, we may still be in a little bit of that, but it doesn't mean that you can't be out there to capture some of those memories for people so that they've got them. The kids haven't stopped growing in the pandemic.
That's right. And also getting outside is just good for your mental health as well. I know that's especially true for me and pretty much everybody. I mean, here in Michigan, we have snow on the ground. I will bundle up like an Eskimo and get outside, and I love it. And just the fresh air, you get fresh ideas, especially as I plan for 2021 and where I want my business to go. Don't be afraid to step outside of your door. Even taking a walk around the block, it's a wonderful socially distant activity that was never banned in Michigan. I don't know about the other states, but I mean, just getting outside is literally a breath of fresh air for you, your mental health, and your business. Wow, I think that's the list.
We just covered a lot of ground, everybody,
yes,
and for those of you that stuck with us, thank you. It's been an incredibly challenging year that we just closed the book on. But man, what a year ahead if you just get your mindset in the right spot. In fact, I'm going to share a quote before we wrap it up from an author by the name of Monica Sweeney, who just made a comment. She said, "For every negative thought you have in your head about yourself, there's a positive one scrambling behind it, vying for a chance to speak. Mm. Give those positive thoughts an effing megaphone." What are they trying to tell you? Close quote. So part of making 2021 a stronger year is not to forget to believe in yourself. And the pandemic didn't kill your dreams. It just rerouted them.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And for those listening, feel free to comment in the comment section if there's anything you feel we left out, or if there's something that you're planning this year for your business that we didn't mention, because we're all in this together, and we're all about sharing and exchanging our ideas so that we can all have productive and successful photography businesses. And Skip, I never want to forget to ask, where can folks hunt you down online?
It's the same in 2021 as it was in all the other years. Everything I write is at skipcohenuniversity.com. My email is skip@mei500.com. And I'm Skip Cohen on Facebook and Skip Cohen on Twitter. And let's ask you that same old question, where they go to find you.
They can send me an email at shamira@photofocus.com. That's my first name, CHAMIRA @photofocus.com. We love getting questions. We love getting ideas because, and we've said it before, it shapes how we move forward with this show. And we're super excited for 2021. And so normally this is where we thank our guest. But since we didn't have a guest today, Skip, thank you for sharing your ideas and being awesome. This was fun.
Well, thank you. This is a fun one. You and I go back and forth. You've got that experience on the front line as a working photographer, and I've got that passion for helping all of you guys with the business and marketing. And I hope people have found this helpful. There are an awful lot of ideas that we just shared to help make 2021 a far better year than the last one we just let go of.
That's right. That's right. And we want to thank our listeners for joining us as always. Please tell your friends about this podcast, especially if they want to bring their photography business up to the next level in 2021 and make it better than ever. We look forward to having you with us next time on the Mind Your Own Business podcast, brought to you by Photo Focus and Skip Cohen University.